Person of interest. That is what authorities are now calling the man you see here with his arm around Sudiksha Konanki in this chilling surveillance video. He was the last person to see the missing American college student before she vanished as the sun came up on the beach in the Dominican Republic. This is a major twist. We're on the case presented by Law&Crime. I'm Chris Stewart. Let's get to the big update that came in today involving the search for Sudiksha Konanki, the missing University of Pittsburgh student who was on spring break in the Dominican Republic. The man you see with his arm around Konanki in this surveillance video the night that she went missing is now a person of interest. He has been identified by law enforcement as Joshua Riibe. This is according to the Loudoun County, Virginia Sheriff's Office, which is assisting in this case. Konanki lived in the county just outside Washington, D.C. Here's the email I got back from the Sheriff's Office today naming Riibe. It is important to note that they say this is a missing persons investigation. This is not a criminal case. And the person of interest, we do want to note, is exactly that, a person who is of interest. And in this case, this is a missing persons investigation. A person of interest is not a suspect. But let's talk about this person of interest and how they factor into this story. You can see Joshua Riibe here. He is the person in that cutoff t-shirt. Here's a picture from a family member's Facebook page. You can see what he looks like. Riibe, also a college student. He was in the Dominican Republic on spring break.
Hi, my name is Josh Riibe, and today I'll be showing you how to set up a total station.
This is a video we found posted to his YouTube account 2 years ago. We did a dive into his background, and here's what we know about him at this point. Riibe's a senior at St. Cloud State University in Minnesota. He's a native of Rock Rapids, Iowa. In high school, he appeared to be an athlete playing football and wrestling. He graduated in 2021. Here's a video posted to his school's Facebook page where he gives advice to future graduates.
My name is Josh Riibe.
And as soon as person of interest was put out publicly today, this story got a whole new level of attention. And even though person of interest grabs a lot of people's attention, we want to be clear that a person of interest is not a suspect. No charges have been filed in this case. And according to what we've heard from Dominican authorities, this case is still being investigated as an accident, though the authorities in Virginia say nothing has been ruled out as they're assisting in this investigation. Here is what Riibe reportedly told investigators about what happened after this surveillance video shows him with Sudiksha and some of her friends going to the beach around 4:15 in the morning from their all-inclusive resort in Punta Cana. And while we have video of them going to the beach, there are not cameras on the beach, so we can't see what happens when they get there. We know that everyone in the group went back to the hotel around 5:55 a.m., leaving Riibe behind with Sudiksha. And according to ABC News, citing a police report, Dominican law enforcement believe that Riibe and Sudiksha went for a swim and she was swept away by a big wave and likely drowned. And according to local Dominican media, Riibe told police that he threw up and fell asleep on a beach chair. We don't see him return to the hotel until 9:55 later that morning. He's seen on surveillance video walking back to the hotel alone with his shirt off. Sudiksha wasn't reported missing until 4 p.m. that day. Police have found what they believe to be Sudiksha's clothing on a beach chair and have said that there's no signs of violence. Dominican media outlets citing police have raised questions about Riibe's story. He has said that he threw up, that he fell asleep on a beach chair. But there are questions about how consistent he's been when it comes to the last time he saw Sudiksha and what she was doing, whether she was in the ocean, whether she was on the shore. And at the time of this recording, Riibe is still in the Dominican Republic as this search continues. While ABC News has reported that Dominican police believe that Sudiksha's disappearance was an accident, that she drowned, her father, who is now in the Dominican Republic, is pushing for authorities to do more, to explore possibilities of foul play like kidnapping or abduction. He also told media that he didn't know who Riibe was, meaning that Riibe must have met Sudiksha while they were on spring break there at that all-inclusive resort. Sudiksha is a student at the University of Pittsburgh. Her family says that she was planning to study pre-med when she got back to Pittsburgh in the spring and then one day pursue a career in medicine. And while there are a lot of theories that are floating out there right now, we want to be clear that at this point there has been no evidence of foul play. Dominican police have searched the beach where Sudiksha was last seen with helicopters and crews on the ground. And we do want to note that this is a beach that has been dangerous. Frankly, this year it has been deadly. Earlier this year in January in Punta Cana, according to the Associated Press, 4 tourists drowned in rough sea conditions with high winds and red flag warnings. While the possibility of an accident is very much real, this story is drawing comparisons to another story of a missing American student, Natalie Holloway, who in 2005 went missing in Aruba while on a trip after her high school graduation. The prime suspect in that story was Dutch national Joran van der Sloot, a very notorious name now 20 years later. He was never charged with her murder, and she was never found, but he was convicted of a separate murder in Peru in 2012 and then pleaded guilty to wire fraud and extortion related to the Holloway case in 2023. The stories that we cover here at Law and Crime prove that life is unpredictable and having a great attorney matters, and that's where we bring in our partner and sponsor, Morgan & Morgan. Morgan & Morgan is a law firm with more than 1,000 attorneys with a history of winning. Just in the last few months, they were able to secure a $9.6 million verdict for a car crash victim in Florida, $5.6 million for a car accident victim in Atlanta, and $1.8 million in Kentucky. And in that case, the insurance company was only going to offer $5,000. So even if you don't think your case is worth millions of dollars, why not file a claim and fight for what you deserve? Morgan & Morgan truly makes it easy to file a claim. You can do it with just 8 easy clicks on your phone. So if you're injured, you can start to file a claim at forthepeople.com/OTC or click the link in the comments. Joining us now to talk about this case in the Dominican Republic is TJ Ward, a private investigator who was hired by the family of Natalie Holloway when she went missing in Aruba in 2005. Thank you, sir, for taking the time to be with us as we look into this case in the Caribbean. News of the day is that this person, Josh Riibe, who she was last seen with, is now considered a person of interest, according to the Loudoun County Sheriff's Office in Virginia. What does that tell you about this investigation and where it could go next?
Well, knowing he was the last person that was with her, seen her, knew about her, I find it a little interesting that he apparently he said he got sick when they both got in the ocean, and he came out and apparently passed out, and he got up. It was several hours before he even noted anybody that they couldn't find her or wherever she was. And then he claims that she must have drowned in the ocean. So they apparently have found some of her clothes. And so I got some reservations that something's not right with him, and that's why they probably named him a person of interest to keep bringing him in or see if his story changes or he updates and hopefully finally gives, if he is involved, tells them exactly what happened or where they can find her.
Yeah, he not a suspect at this point. No charges have been filed at the time of this recording, but a person of interest. Over the weekend, she goes missing on Thursday, and then over the weekend, the reports come out that the Dominican police believe that this was a drowning, or that's the likely incident that happened, that it was an accident. What did you make of the timeline that investigators had in putting that information out to the media?
Well, I got a problem with them thinking it may be a drowning. I think we have a person that knows or was with her, and there's evidence he was with her at 4:30 in the morning. And he continues the story to say they got into the water, the waves, it was rough. And then she said he thinks he may have drowned. But the timeline of getting authorities involved or letting somebody know that she was missing is a little offset with me. I mean, I would keep looking at him, and I believe that's why law enforcement has named him a person of interest, to keep looking at him, because he was the last person apparently that was with her.
And you have experience when it comes to following these investigations when it takes place in another country. And in this case, you have, from what Dominican officials have told members of the media, is that they believe it was an accidental drowning. And now you have the Loudoun County, Virginia Sheriff's Office saying that though it is still a missing persons case, that this person, Josh Riibe, who was also at the hotel, that he's a person of interest. The fact that you have kind of U.S. officials saying one thing, Dominican officials saying the other, what does that tell you about how this investigation is going thus far?
Well, the goodness of this case is the FBI is involved now. And I believe there's several agents there or their teams of looking for missing persons is there with them. So I believe, and not taking control of the investigation, because obviously it's their country, their case. The FBI has volunteered to come in here, probably from the resources, and the sheriff up in Virginia, who probably recommend contacting the FBI and getting them there. So the due diligence of the FBI and the resources that they have is a little bit different than probably what they do on the island. I experienced that when I was in Aruba. One of the things that I did when I got into Aruba was to find somebody locally that knew everybody, that could speak their language, and take him with me in the course of my investigation, and let him be able to help me, tell me who was, and where we need to go and look. And so it was a great help, and I paid him to stay on board with me, to work with me when I was in Aruba.
When I look at some of the details that have been given out thus far, and it's hard because a lot of it has come through different media reports, but you have this person of interest who says, before the sun comes out, it's very early in the morning or late at night because they were out that late, and that he had been drinking. This is an all-inclusive resort. It stands out to me that he remembers that he threw up, and then reportedly threw up, and then falls asleep on a bench, but doesn't seem to be able to remember where she was, whether it was on the shore, whether she was in water. And then there was the report that she got swept away by a wave. What do you make of that he can seem to remember what he did, but not necessarily what she did?
Well, again, look at the timeline from the time that he apparently woke up, or from him being passed out, till the time that he made contact with somebody to tell them he can't find her and she may be missing. Then he goes into the story about maybe she's drowned because we were in the ocean and the waves were real strong and the red flags were up, and so on and so forth. But he's adding to his story. I mean, there's another video, you can see him walking back later in the afternoon without his shirt and his shoes. So where are they from the time he came from the beach? And did he lose them, take them off? Who knows? That needs to be looked at too. But being a person of interest, they have somebody that concerns them, that may be somebody that has more information, or may end up being charged. Who knows? But if he knows something, he needs to be truthful, especially with the FBI, because they can get involved now and enhance the situation. So I think it's a good thing for them being there to assist the authorities locally, because they have the resources and the tools to be able to work these type of cases.
And you've worked, obviously, notably with Natalee Holloway's family, but what is this family going through right now? I mean, it's impossible to imagine unless you're in those shoes of trying to find out what happened to your daughter. But what is the day-to-day like for this family, as I know the mom and the dad are in the Dominican Republic as this search is continuing?
Well, they're frantic. I mean, their thoughts, and I know the father has said something, maybe she's been kidnapped, maybe she's been sent into a sex trade camp or something. There's an alert that was put out some time ago by the government in the United States about traveling to the Dominican Republic, and there's issues there. There's robberies, rapes, armed robberies, people being assaulted, so on and so forth. So these young kids that go off to these islands because of the freedom, being able to drink, party, do whatever they want, they're not thinking about what the end result could be when somebody else is watching them. And this is what happened to Natalee. She had ecstasy apparently put in her drink at a bar. She was extremely intoxicated and met these guys and turn around and go off with them. And look what's happened. She's, we still don't know the full story about what happened to Natalee Holloway. We know what Vandersloot said in the course of his 20-year sentence he got in Birmingham, and taking a polygraph with the FBI. But there may be more to the story than we actually know.
Yeah, and it's unclear, obviously, what happened. I mean, the surveillance video only shows what's happening at the resort, doesn't show what happened on the beach. At this point, we don't know of any evidence of any kind of foul play. But even if there isn't foul play, I think of this person of interest was with her. If he says that he saw her get swept away, or it somehow was planted in the area or placed. He's right there when it
Right.
happens. From a civil standpoint, could the family sue his family, sue him because he was there when she disappeared?
Good possibility. Could be a civil action. But also, to go back just a few steps, you
Sure.
know that the resort apparently had a power failure. The camera stopped working. There was all kind of problems with this resort right when it apparently transpired. So that's rolling against them too. They may have an action against the resort. I mean, with she was a guest there, and they apparently had an obligation to watch over her too, also. So, and along with the last person to be seen with them, but I think still early on, I think they're still going to probably target in on him and see if the story changes or stays the same or whatever before they take any other thoughts about her drowning or whatever. Um, so I mean, it's still early, but luckily they got on this case when they did. I wish the family would have responded back to me, and I could have been there on their behalf to help them. And I know they're from, I believe they're from India, and I think the Indian consulate's also involved with this too, and along with the chief of the sheriff up in Virginia. So I mean, she's got resources of people standing behind them, but it's a frantic moment to know that your daughter's missing and having to
Yeah.
be there and don't know what may pop up or what may find her. If they do find her or whatever, it's going to be a tragic situation.
Yeah, and it's just again, I just keep thinking of those parents and what each hour must be like without news of what happened. If you were to interview this person of interest, what is your line of questioning to try to get to the root of what happened? Because I'm sure part of his what he would say is that, I mean, he was so drunk he got sick, he can't really remember what happened that night.
Again, I would love to be able to get the audio from his interview with law enforcement and use the voice analysis on it. And I would be able to tell you whether he's being truthful or untruthful or he knows something else. I would be able to see that in this test.
Can you use that
It's
in a court of law? Is that something that would work
not.
if in a trial?
No, you can't use it no more than a polygraph. But I can tell you, it's a good resource for law enforcement to see it's what's going on, and then it will take them to a next step of where they might need to talk about or where they need to go. It's a investigative focus tool for law enforcement. It can't be used no more than a polygraph, but it's a great tool to be able to use to enhance law enforcement's investigation.
And again, there's no evidence at this point of foul play, but if there were, is it just Dominican laws that would apply to this case, though you were dealing potentially, obviously, with a person who is a U.S. resident and U.S. college kids?
Well, if he lies to the FBI, that could be there could be charges. There could be charges. You lie to an FBI agent, and it may apply in another country also. And I know in Aruba, there's been other people that's gone missing, and the FBI's got involved, and the FBI's brought charges against people. Somebody on a cruise ship that may have happened. A cruise ship comes in there if something happens. So it's just a matter of if the federal law is going to be able to apply in that country, and the authorities in Dominican Republic are going to stand or bring their charges. Look at the charges that no charges were brought against Vandersloot, and he's now
Right.
admitted something. He did something to her in Aruba. There's a statute of limitations for a murder in Aruba. Luckily, that he got caught up, and not for the family. Luckily for the family in Peru, from what happened. But nevertheless, he's got 28 years to serve in Peru before he has to come serve his 20 years in the federal penitentiary in Alabama.
And while there are similarities from this case involving Sudiksha and the Natalie Holloway case, because you have young people from the United States who go to an island for vacation and then they disappear. So there are differences if this ends up being a case of an accidental drowning compared to what Natalie Holloway is reported to have gone through. Even with that said, so many years later, almost 20 years after she went missing, what are some of the lessons from that story that can be applied when you think of people who are going on vacation, especially young people, to places like Aruba or the Dominican Republic?
Anytime they travel outside the country to another country where laws in the U.S. don't apply, they need to be aware of safety measures, who could be there. I mean, the Dominican Republic, again, as I told you earlier, has got problems with rape, robberies, murders, and so on and so forth, and it's been put on notice by the U.S. about traveling to this location. But these young people get this mindset of going and being able to party, drink, and all, and they're not worried about their safety at this point. And now we step back and we see it that I see, and when this happened, I just flashback come to me about what transpired in Aruba at the beginning, the exact same thing. And so we're here again in another country, and there's an American missing. So these young people need to understand even this is a problem. And the problem for the Dominican Republic is, again, like it was in Aruba, was tourism. All the media was there on top of this case in Aruba, and they had to bring somebody in just to handle the tourism with people traveling from the U.S. coming to share the island. And the same thing that they're going to suffer here because of having somebody missing from the U.S. And apparently, but this person of interest, they're going to stay on top of, and I'm sure they're going to interview him numerous times and other people that knew and was around her, the friends that traveled with her, and see if something new comes up in the course of their investigation.
And I know the Dominican, police are working hard. I haven't heard a lot of criticism of how they've put their search efforts forward. But I'm curious, when it came to Aruba, was there a difference when the media really started paying attention to the authorities in Aruba with how they handled the investigation?
Oh, every media outlet from the U.S. was in Aruba immediately. I mean, they were watching everything that was going on in Aruba like a hawk. I mean, all the way from who was there was a problem. And there may be more people involved with the Aruba matter. I mean, I know there's things still being looked at, and I understand the second chief of police is now gone in Aruba, and it may be reflected because of what happened in the Natalie Holloway case. There's still a lot of questions, even after Vandersloot's told his story, that there's things that happen going on that need to be looked at, even 20 years later. Some things weren't handled right.
And just my last question is, what is it about these stories? And obviously it's someone missing, you want them to be returned, but whether it's Natalie Holloway, whether it's the story we're following right now with Sudiksha out of the Dominican Republic, what is it about these stories that seem to get so much attention when they happen?
Because a family is missing a loved one, and it's a big priority, huge priority. And look at the Americans in Gaza that are they've been put on notice. They need to release everybody or there's going to be problems. I mean, there's Americans missing. And, we have a little different, I believe, angle and a little different thought about people. And the American media they take up on these type of cases. And I could not believe how much media was in Aruba when this transpired. I mean, it went on for a very long time. I went from network to network to network when I was in Aruba working. I mean, it's just incredible talking about telling a story, and hopefully somebody would come forward and tell what really happened.
Yeah, and
That's
hopefully,
the key. And that's the key for law enforcement here, and that's why the FBI is involved, to find new evidence and to help the authorities there uncover this case and find this girl. We need to find this girl. The time's going on. If she's drowned, if the guy knows she's drowned, he needs to come forth and tell the truth. For the sake of the family. I mean, this is traumatic to lose your child, traumatic. And
Yeah, I
I mean,
can't
I
imagine.
shared with you, I experienced it
Yeah.
with my thoughts and with my son that overdosed with heroin. So I know what it feels like to lose a family member, especially a young one. And mine was 31 years old, and I knew he had drug problems, and I thought he was going to get over it, but ironically, he didn't, and put the drugs back in his system, and he died.
I know that's something that never leaves you, and I know for just thinking of this family, and sorry for your loss, TJ, and thinking of this family and what they're probably going through every hour. It's hard to imagine. You hope that they can get some sense of closure. You still hold on to hope that there could be a positive ending to this
Yep,
story.
I
We'll
hope they
continue to
find their
follow it.
daughter. I hope they
Yeah,
do.
yeah.
I hope they
Hopefully,
find her alive.
we'll continue to follow this
So,
story from the Dominican Republic. And private investigator TJ Ward, thank you for taking the time to be with us here on Law and Crime. We appreciate it.
okay, thank you. Look forward to helping you again.
We will continue to keep a close eye on this story in the Dominican Republic. For On the Case, presented by Law and Crime, I'm Chris Stewart. We'll see you next time.